I found my way to the CBOE in 1975, looking for a summer job after my freshman year of college. A really good girlfriend, and I went down to the floor, and the guard said, "Oh, would you girls like to just go down on the floor?" It was pretty casual. And we said, "Yeah, okay." So we walked around until two brokers offered us jobs for the summer, and that's how it started. Then I actually got 5 more of my girlfriend's jobs that summer. So there were 7 of us that would carpool to the train, take the Rock Island train down to the old LaSalle Street station and worked on the CBOE. Everyone went back to school, and I did not, which did not make my parents very happy. But I knew that I was in the right place at the right time, working for a really smart guy. So I stayed. And he was probably one of the best brokers on the CBOE, Bob Culbertson, and I worked for him until I turned 21, and he put me on a seat. So I was like an assistant broker, a salary broker. And that's how I started there anyway. And so I knew a lot of people. Like I knew the runners, I knew all the houses because I'd been there a few years before I became a broker. The man that I worked for, Bob Culbertson, he leased a membership, and I was like a nominee of his corporation. And I think he owned his seat, and then he leased a seat for me to be on. When I met Ches, he was on a membership that he'd financed. And so that was the seat that then we owned together and paid for as fast as we possibly could. We formed our own corporation in 1982 or 3, and then we ran all of our businesses through that corporation. And so I learned a lot that way too. I learned a lot from the guys in my trading crowd. One was an attorney who practiced that kind of law, and so he helped me set up the corporation and a pension and profit sharing plan for our employees, because as time went on, we hired more people and had a good staff. Well, I'd like to think I would have maybe finished college, but I know that the timing was so good that I wouldn't change that because I was so in the right place at the right time. So there's really not a lot I'd change. Possibly I should have been the one to go to the Board of Trade just for those great hours, but Ches was better at that kind of the commodity end of the business and great customer relations. On the Board of Trade, you had a more personal relationship with the customers than you did at the CBOE. Technology, pretty much, and the system changed from independent traders, market maker, floor broker, because we were not allowed to. If you were a floor broker, you absolutely could not trade for your own account in any of the stocks where you were a broker. And they changed that system to a DPM, a designated primary market maker system. And that was kind of the end around 2000, I think. And then I helped out when they would call me sometimes, and I would go in 2001. And then in 2005, I think, Citadel offered me a job on the floor, and I stood in a trading crowd, and they were really advanced with their technology. And so it was open Outcry, but I didn't really do very much of that. It was all streaming. Well, actually, one of them was when I was pregnant with our oldest daughter, Kira. This happened with Tess as well. I worked until the day before I had her. That wasn't the plan. She came a little early, but I had, my big pregnant belly, and all the guys in the crowd would come up and kind of give it a good luck rub before the start of the day. And then as the day went on, we were really busy back then. They kind of, get closer and closer to you. I'd be like, okay, back up, you guys. You give me some room here. One of my favorite people in the trading crowd who had been in the business a long time, was quite a bit older than I was. he lost all his money. He did actually come back and unfortunately passed away, and, it kind of broke my heart. So that was really difficult because he was absolutely one of my favorite people I'd met down there. Anything like bad that happened, it seemed like people would kind of come together. And when this man passed away, he had 2 young sons, and like we formed a foundation and funded it for their education. And people were so incredibly generous when anything really bad happened, it seemed to me. And on a regular daily basis, when you were selling your raffle tickets and Girl Scout cookies and everything else, they were pretty good about that too. On the CBOE, I think there was an incredible amount of opportunity, but you had to be willing to take risks. So you had to like borrow money, or however you had to kind of finance your way into it. You could do it, but you had to be really comfortable taking risk. And luckily, Chess and I felt the same way about that. We were young. We didn't have any kids for a few years. And so, we took some risks on buying seats and hiring staff. And I remember sometimes being in the office on payroll the next day thinking, oh, if I could just make payroll, that would be great. And but Charlie Obermeier, my husband's cousin who brought him into the business, he was a great mentor for both of us. And it really stuck. His, don't buy anything that you can't afford to buy. And you pay off all your debt. This is an industry that you do not know how long it will last. You don't know how long you'll last in it. And so we kind of live by that. And I remember Chess saying to me in his busiest days, I feel like I don't have any money, because I was kind of in charge of it. And I said, well, that's because, when we stop doing this, we're hopefully not going to have mortgages or anything. We won't have any debt. And so we'll be in good shape. So it kind of worked out. Oh, yeah, September 11th. Oh, my God. Well, I wasn't on the floor actually that day on September 11th, but it was terrifying. Like, I was talking to, my brother down there and saying, you've got to get off that trading floor. And, any kind of big election, big event, anything big in the news would affect us pretty directly. And a lot of people had differing views about how it would affect us. So that made it all the more interesting. Oh, yeah, the crash was really insane. We were so busy. Like you couldn't get out of your, you just got into your groove and you were there the whole day and you never left the floor and you never lost your concentration. Otherwise it would have gone really sideways. And you had your staff double checking everything that you executed and organizing it after the fact so that you could address any mistakes made. I tried to really stay neutral on that because you had to approach the orders that you had to execute with a very clear, neutral opinion. Even though you paid close attention to what the traders in the crowd were doing, and I tried very hard to not ever let them see me be nervous, so I was really good at that, actually. The market openings on the CBOE were far more sane than they were on the Board of Trade because we had a rotation. And we had a member behind the book who, and our book was only public orders. And the book took priority. So the customer got filled before a trader would get filled if the book was there, not necessarily if I was there representing that order. So I had to make sure if I was going to hold on to a bid or an offer that I better be really fast first and participate. Otherwise, they'd be like, book the order because they wanted the priority. But it was way more organized. And then it was chaos, after everything was open. But the opening rotations were somewhat orderly. It was so much fun, so exciting. It was sort of that immediate gratification thing. I thought I could never be like an attorney and just have to, painstakingly do all this work to finally go to a courtroom. And I could never have done a job like that. So it just fit me and my personality well. And I think I was a good decision maker. So I it felt like a natural fit. When you trade with the same people in a trading crowd day after day, you pretty much know what stocks they trade, which strikes in months in each stock that they trade. And you realize that there's some traders in a crowd who trade every single stock, no matter what it is. And then the ones that maybe don't necessarily do the same might be a little bit faster on a particular trade because they're trading maybe a third of what these other guys are trading. So you have to take that into account when you're splitting up a trade. And you also know who is going to treat you the best, just the best guys. And you know what? That kind of weeds them. They weed themselves out. The bad guys, they don't last. So at the end, you're kind of just surrounded with pretty good guys, pretty good people, men and women. At the end of the day expiration, my purse was missing. And we used to just put our purse on the floor in the trade. I mean, you'd never worried about it. And I was like, this has never happened to me before. And oh my God, everything, my whole life's in my purse. And my clerk, my boss's son, had seen what happened. He saw who took it. And he went to the floor manager of that firm and told him what he saw. He never told me ever. And, they got my purse back. So I thought, oh, pretty cool. Probably as soon as it was introduced, because you knew that things were changing. You could just feel it. And it seemed like there was more and more money in fewer and fewer hands. So that when I used to do like 1,000 one lots in a day, now you were doing fewer orders that were bigger orders. I don't know. So the whole thing felt like it was changing.